Hello and welcome to Boomer Live. We are back on the opening day of the Super 12s, and as we expected, this World Cup is keeping on our toes. It's another surprising result. People will feel New Zealand versus Australia isn't a surprising result, but it is. They won Australia after 11 long years, and they defeated the defending champions. And what a fashion to defeat the defending champions by 8-9 runs. It was a thumping win for the New Zealanders, and we did not see that coming. We all expected this to be a one-sided game for Australia, and New Zealand showed that they are here. ICC tournaments, you cannot write this team down. They always come up with something or the other, and now they're well on course. The net run rates have shot up for them. Australia's net run rate is rock bottom at this point, so they will be worrying on the other end. And you had another game, which was Afghanistan between was England. One should have been a cakewalk for England, but then Afghanistan bowlers did tighten the screws. It was not an easy chase for England at all, and that's also because of the ground. I've seen it in Perth. Teams who chase haven't won a lot of games. 60% of teams who have chased have lost in Perth. So a lot of interesting results going on. Tomorrow is a big game. It is India versus Pakistan, but let's talk about the game which happened earlier today. The game one. It was Australia versus New Zealand. New Zealand was put on to bat by Aaron Finch, and they came out smashing. Jaren, how did you make of that approach? Because that took Australia by surprise. Because usually you see Mitchell Stark picking up a wicket there and Australia being on top, but then it was the other way around. It was last time around when Australia played New Zealand in a big World Cup game. It was Brendan Beckham who got ball, but this time another wicketkeeper batsman came down the track and took on Mitchell Stark. Another end of the spectrum. How did you see that coming?
I was excellent. I think credit to the New Zealand management, to be very honest, because they had the guts to drop someone like Martin Guptill and allow Finn Allen to take up the stage. And I mean, he just lit the. I mean, and they just lit the power play on fire. I mean, what a game! I see that both of you are dressed as black caps. So sort of a theme running here. I did not get the memo though, but I mean, it is great to see what went along. Amazing to see the fact that Finn Allen and Devon Conway really complement each other because Conway takes a bit of time to get started, but Finn Allen gave him that breathing space by making sure that the Australian bowlers had no way out, and it was just chaos, to be very honest. And from that moment onwards, I think Australia just had no answers at any point in the game. It was just comprehensive win, and as you said, it's taken them 11 years to win in Australia, and what a win it has come. I mean, brilliant.
Absolutely, absolutely. But it's something funny. We also were skeptical to give New Zealand any kind of chance. That's one of the reasons. Even in our fantasy picks, we went with a lenient side of Australia, where we leaned towards Australia 7-4. But this was something which we did not expect at all. Being bowled out for 111 and 200 was a daunting task. The moment they scored 200, they had won 70% of the game. And the spinners came into play. Satner, because we not even have Satner in the picks. Everybody thought Michael Bracer would be the pick. But Sandner was yet again a player who led from the front. In big occasions, he has got a very calm head. He's a crafty spinner. He knows his lengths very well, and he's also a handy batter. His batting exploits are not coming to play today, but what a game! Yeah. If you have to sum it up, let's talk about Devon Conway because we spoke about Finn Allen, but Devon Conway's innings was so crucial as well. He anchored the innings pretty well. He accelerated when it was required, but he took a matchup out. He went after Adam Zampa, which meant that Adam Zampa was ineffective against this Kiwi team.
Yeah, definitely. With so many left-handers in the team, at one point when Jimmy Neesham and Devon Conway, I think they really accelerated towards the end. Devon Conway played a Conway sort of a knock. He built his innings perfectly. He knew he changed his gears at the right moment, and New Zealand had like scored 200 in a very smooth manner. At no point did they look to be in any sort of trouble. One might say once Finn Allen was dismissed after the fourth over, the run flow slowed down a bit because Kane Williamson came in, played himself in. But after the 10th over, I think they went after the bowling because they had wickets in hand. So I think very very aggressive intent from Finn Allen, and then we told like we did not pick him in our fantasy teams by a very small margin. David Warner's wicket was very unfortunate. So yeah, might as well he would have probably scored a lot more because the pitch was not bad. I think Australia just succumbed under the scoreboard pressure. They were not in the game right from the first over. I think it was a brilliant over from Trent Bolt. It set it up. The boundary that was hit in the first over was an outside edge that flew past the first slip. So Kane Williamson had just removed his second slip and the ball went in that direction. So it was a brilliant first over that set things up for the chase for New Zealand to sort of be so dominant in the second innings. And then Tim Southee was brilliant as well. Team Saudi has a brilliant record against Australia. So does Mitchell Santner. But the problem, I would have still played somebody like a Michael Briswell instead of Mitchell Santner, because I think some of the wickets that Mitchell Santner took, you have to give credit to the fielders. I mean, Glenn Phillips taking that catch of Marcus Stoinis, that like Australia were already three down, and when they were really sort of looking to have some momentum in the innings, Maxwell hit that reverse sweep for reverse hit for a boundary of Ish Sodhi, and Santner came in to bowl the ninth over. They were just looking to sort of accelerate and change their gears. And at that point, Marcus Stoinis got out, and Tim David and Matthew Wade were uh, not really expecting to come in a situation where they have to score in excess of 14 runs per over for 10 overs. So that was the game already done and dusted. But Pat Cummins at the end hit some lusty blows. It's good for the Australian lower order to get some, not lower order. Pat Cummins will be probably very happy with what he did with the bat. But other than that, I don't see any positives for Australia going into the next game. And I think it is going to be a huge challenge for them to now reach the semis, because they'll have to beat England. And
Yes,
and
they'll
they'll
have
have to
to.
beat the other three teams as well. Sri Lanka, Ireland, and Afghanistan. They'll have to beat them, and then again they'll have to go in and beat England, because New Zealand, I don't see them losing.
I
I
mean,
I
from
I
here
can
also, both. I mean, Australia will be hoping that both England and New Zealand get a defeat from somewhere, and
yeah. I
that's the
mean, only one
most
of them can get a
difficult
defeat
part.
playing each other, right? So
Yeah, actually,
Australia will have to
we'll
win
have to
all their
probably
games if
hope.
they will
They'll have
have
to
to
hope
qualify.
that somewhere, someplace, upset is what
But
Australia will be
yeah,
hoping on.
now on the upside of things, even if Australia go on to win the next four games and one of the
Yeah.
team gets a defeat,
No, no, I think you
but
need to
it
win
could,
four games to qualify into the semifinals with six teams in one group. If two
yeah,
will qualify, you'll have to win four games, because
it
last
could
time
well
also
be a
India won
case
6 games on
like
knockout.
South Africa last year, when they got four wins, but then one
Yeah, yeah,
loss
yeah.
where they took the where they got the hammering really came into play and where they lost out on the semi-final spot by net run rate. So this could be another case where net run rate comes into play because today's hammering
Definitely,
was
net run rate
massive.
took a huge blow, and that is the exact that is exactly why I would have preferred somebody like a Matthew Wade or Tim David to sort of settle in and then go after the bowling. Getting back to my topic on Mitchell Santner, I think the ball that Tim David got out to was a real half volley, was a loosener
Yeah,
from
but I
Santner.
think, I mean, so here's what I thought what happened in that delivery was when Mitch Santner was bowling, he wasn't turning the ball as much. But that
Yeah,
one particular delivery, he ripped the ball hard. And
Yeah.
that's the reason why that kind of, he dragged it down because he was ripping the ball so hard using his fingers. But the ball turned quite a bit. And that's where Tim David was a bit surprised. And he ended up dragging it
yeah,
towards the
but
fielder.
still you expect Tim
You
David to,
expect Tim David to
because
go
the
after
shot that
it.
he hit of
Correct.
the previous ball was a blind, like was a great
Yes,
shot,
yes,
because it
yes.
was hit of
I
good
think he
side.
was just
There was nothing
surprised with
wrong
the
with the
amount of
delivery.
turn. He expected the ball to be a bit more, a bit more come on with the
Straight,
hands.
yeah,
But
because you don't
because it
expect somebody like
turned,
a
he had
Mitchell
to
Santner
drag
to
it
twirl the
wide.
ball too much.
Yeah, he dragged it wide and dragged it to the fielder's hands. So maybe, so, I would say credit to Santner to try and turn the ball, but it wasn't the best of delivery. So a bit lucky there.
Absolutely, and
And also
that's
I
where.
think Glenn Maxwell was yeah, we I understand. I mean, he did not have a two-digit score for some 6 7 innings heading into this game, but he was not trying to play the any shot in the way a right-hander should play. He was trying the reverse hit on every delivery, and I think that is what led to his dismissal at the end. You expect somebody Ish Shodhi's caliber to understand that the batsman is trying to hit you with reverse hits in on every delivery. So I think Maxwell could have mixed it up a bit over there, because he has the power, he has the game to clear boundaries in the orthodox manner as well. You can try those unorthodox shots once or twice every over, but Maxwell, for playing against Santner and Ish Sodhi, I think in every ball he was trying to play that reverse sweep or reverse hit, and that
Yeah.
just became a bit predictable, according to me.
True, true, and that's one of the reasons why you also saw, Australian team not have a plan for this stage. They knew 200 was their 10 runs per over. That's what they were looking at. And when you have 10 runs per over and against a quality bowling attack, and Sandner was a vital cog. And if you have a bowler who's just going 8 runs per over and picking up three wickets, and it's gold dust. And you have to also give credit to Trent Bolt and Tim Southey, because they applied pressure with that spell up front, which meant that they were able to pick up wickets. Which also meant that the scoring rate was down. Every batter who came in had to only do one thing, which was to go behind the ballers. But Jared, now for Australia, they'd be very disheartened, because one reason being they threw the towel way too early. They could have possibly taken the score to maybe close to 140, 150, because they got all out in the 17th over. And that's something which is so unlike Australia. And now for Australia, what is next? Uh, because the net run rate is something which will come into picture at some stage, and that's definitely going to come into picture when it's a group stage, when you have two other top quality teams like New Zealand and England. Even with 4 wins, you can be under the scanner with net run rate. So that's where you think Australia threw the towel way too early in this game.
Absolutely able. What I really do not like from Australia was the fact that they tried to. I mean, we've been speaking about this for quite some time, and what really happened with Australia is the fact that they did not look to score runs and as much try to hit the ball out of the ground. In the power play itself, in the 6 overs that they had 22 dot balls, while New Zealand's, I mean, all over, I mean, New Zealand all over the place. I mean, by the time eighth over, ninth over came in, Australia already had faced 22 dot balls, while New Zealand had only 28 dot balls throughout the match. So that is something where Australia kind of did not try to take those singles, doubles, did not try to get a momentum going in their direction. While what Devon Conway, for example, did an excellent job in rotating the strike, making sure that he played for the long term, right? I mean, you have to still play 120 deliveries, and playing 120 deliveries is not as easy as you would think, because 10 wickets can fall in just 10 balls. So you need to be very careful. As I've always said, you need to pick the right deliveries. Sandipani is right about the fact that someone like Glenn Maxwell probably personifies the adventure that sort of Australia took forward with trying to score boundaries, whatever may come. And that's where they kind of put pressure on themselves, because when you're trying to score a boundary, it doesn't work. Either you end up with a dot ball, and that also was causing a lot of pressure. So every ball that Australia was not able to score a boundary, the required run rate was creeping up, and then again they needed to score a boundary, and that kind of became a vicious circle. So Australia probably, I think, was probably taken aback after that first innings, and the momentum shift. That's what they wanted to shift in their favor. It did not work. Mitch Marsh came in with some aggression, tried to score a few boundaries, got successful, but then it's just that kind of approach doesn't always keep going, especially when the boundaries are so long. So
Hmm.
I mean, bit harsh from me, but I think Australia played a bit immature cricket here, and it might just cost them the semi-final berth.
I mean, that is a very big call already, which we're making. And we've seen that with some of the teams as well, where they got off to shocking starts and they go on to pick the momentum. But for
Yeah,
Australia, it's been a pattern now. They lost to England, and they lost a warm up game to India.
yeah,
So
yeah.
there has been a pattern when it comes to Australia chasing, right? Now do you reckon now going into the tournament, Sandeepani, they'll be a little underconfident to chase totals down, because especially now the pattern has been slowly building. We talk about Australia, one of the best teams to the tournament, expected favorites to defend the crown, but now there is a weight of expectation. There is a certain pattern which has been built. Glenn Maxwell, I know he was a top scorer for Australia, but he's still out of form. There are questions regarding Aaron Finch's spot in this particular team. A lot of issues now. The bowling has taken a hit as well. For Australia, one of the things which you should always save them is their bowling, but then you always knew death bowling was a concern, because Mitchell Stark hasn't been a part. Patrick Cummins goes for runs. Now a lot of questions are creeping in for a formidable unit like Australia, who looks balanced on the paper.
Yeah, I think they still look balanced on the paper because they have all these aggressive players, aggressive all rounders coming in right from at number three. You have Mitchell Marsh, then you have Tim David, Marcus Stoinis, Glenn Maxwell. So they have a plethora of all rounders, but that is where I think Finch will have to be very clever on how he applies them as bowlers as well. Because if you have some of your key bowlers like either of Pat Cummins or Mitchell Stark or Hazelwood not having a great day, you can probably give in 1 or 2 overs for Glenn Maxwell or somebody like Marcus Stoinis. Marcus Stoinis bowled for all like his quota of 4 overs tonight, but I think they could have used 1 or 2 overs of Glenn Maxwell or Mitchell Marsh, because I had said it in the pre-match yesterday that Glenn Maxwell could have been effective against somebody of Devon Conway's caliber, because Devon Conway has been in great form otherwise, and you have to take if you are bowling spin, you have to take the ball away from him, because he's a very good sort of he slog sweeps, and he gives it a hike over deep mid wicket. So his leg side game is pretty strong. So is his offside game, but I think Glenn Maxwell could have been employed early on in the power play for 1 or 2 overs. But going forward, I think Aaron Finch will have a, a more difficult job of identifying which of the bowlers is not at their best, because they have the option of going to different bowlers. They have potentially 8 bowling options if you include Tim David. So they can give Tim David, Mitchell Marsh, and Glenn Maxwell, or Glenn Maxwell, or any one of the three go at the bowling if they're not picking up wickets. And tonight we saw they were not picking up wickets. Finn Allen was dismissed at the end of the fourth over. Then Kane Williamson and Devon Conway stitched up a partnership. Once Kane Williamson got out, Glenn Phillips came in. They had a certain small amount of partnership, and then finally Jimmy Neesham and Devon Conway finished the innings. So at no point of time did New Zealand look in trouble, and that is the only thing that would be concerning this Australian bowling lineup. Talking about their batting, I think they still have a pretty aggressive and a fearful lineup. I mean, if you look at it from on the papers, you will be afraid of their batting lineup, because all these players are X factor players. They can single-handedly change the course of the game. But it is very important for Australia for either of the two openers to play a big innings, either of Aaron Finch or David Warner. If David Warner gets out early, I think Finch has to change his game and has to play the long innings, especially because they have opted for this all aggressive approach where none of the batters are holding it back, and all of them are trying to hit a boundary of every delivery. And I think that if you try to do that, there is a chance of getting out as well. So you need one player at least in your team who will look to take the who will look to play the anchors knock, so as to say go at a strike rate of 120, 130, but play throughout the innings to ensure that there is no sudden collapse, which we saw tonight. So either of I think David Warner, once he gets back, he was not there in the majority of the. I think he was not there in the England series. He was not there in the
Yeah.
warm up game. He did not play nice. Like he got out in a freak dismissal, one can say. The ball hit the bat pad and then the bat again, and finally the stumps. So you have to, like, they'll have to ensure that either of David Warner or Aaron Finch goes on to play a big innings.
I think they are reliant on David Warner for sure. And especially in big chases like this, you want one of your openers to get going at least till 10th over, set a base. Then your finishers can come and take over the job. And today, ideal situation for Australia would have been last 5 overs, 50 to 60 runs. And you also
Yeah.
remember, this is not India, right? In India, you can chase down 60 to 70 runs in the last 6 overs or 5 overs. But in Australia, with the longer boundaries on the square, you can only chase down up to 60, 55 to 60 runs, because you have to think about it in a different way. You have to calculate your chase in different ways. So this is where dimensions come into play. Rotational strike, picking up the right boundary. That's why I thought Devon Conway's innings was magnificent. People might say Finn Allen was a catalyst, and I totally agree with you. Finn Allen, if you would not have given that, if you wouldn't have got off the blocks in such a manner, it would have put pressure on a lot of people. And the way he did, now you also saw Kane Williamson. He
And
was
I
not
think
looking
that is the
apart.
only reason why Finn Allen is in the team, and he has been picked ahead of somebody like a Martin Guptill, because Martin Guptill has done great service to New Zealand, has been of great service for New Zealand for a long time now. And to drop somebody of his caliber, I think he's the second highest run scorer or the third highest right now. But he's the one of the leading run scorers in T20 internationals. If you bar the two Indians, Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli, he's the leading run scorer in T20 internationals right now.
Yeah.
And you are dropping somebody of his caliber. The player or the person replacing him has to be special. And I think
Yeah,
Finn
yeah,
Allen is a
he is
very
very
special
special,
talent.
and I think he's a very special talent. And I think Ranga Rajappa has said that he's from RCB. Yeah, absolutely. I think RCB. I hope RCB gives him a chance next season.
Ha,
I don't
but
want to.
then Devon Conway is for CSK, so
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good
Team
partnership,
Saudi
and
KKR.
I think this is what happens with Indians ever since IPL has begun. They're like, oh,
let's
this
just
guy's
stop
playing
there.
well. Looks
You know
good for
what's
my
funny?
franchise at
The very
least.
funny part is these people all are bench warmers in the IPL, except maybe Devon Conway. Most of them are bench warmers, and they've gone on to put
Yeah.
up a performance like this.
No, I
Even
think
Mitchell
Team
Shannon.
Saudi got to play a lot of games this
Yeah,
time around.
very few. I mean, of course, he's not your number one choice. And yeah, Sean Lukowski's case says that Finn Allen's knock lit the stage up. Absolutely, it did. And nobody saw that coming. People asked for Steven Smith. Now, this is where the Steven Smith band will start
I
asking for
mean,
where
but
is
then
Steven Smith?
I still feel 10 runs
Yeah.
per over he would have just
Yeah,
put
I
more
think
burden on
that's
the team.
Yeah, absolutely. We
Where
saw that
Australia
with
went really wrong was the fact that they did not play for the 120 balls. They wanted to finish off the game by the 16th, 17th over, and they did. That's
I mean,
basically what happened.
the fact is, especially when you're choosing 200, the moment you have 200 on
And
the
also,
board,
Jerin, just to add on your point, I also think that Steven Smith is also not in a very good sort of form. Even though
Yeah,
he
yeah,
scores slowly, he's not even scoring those runs right now. In like in the T20I or ODI format, wherever he's playing, ODI probably he's a bit more consistent, but in the T20Is, he's not even scoring those runs.
yeah,
Forget
absolutely.
scoring quickly. Yeah,
He's not scoring, but that's another point of view to look into it. But today, I don't think they went for 16. They wanted to finish the game in 16 overs. The reason why they've not been a single score of 200 chase, except maybe South Africa chasing. I think England chased on 229 in Mumbai against South Africa. That's been the
yeah.
only score. But other than that, a lot of teams have faltered chasing score in excess of 200. That's also because of the fact that people do not know how to
I
go
mean,
about
South
chasing
Africa
200.
chased over to, I think 208 in the very first game of the T20 World Cup against
Yeah,
West Indies. Yeah,
very few occasions. Maybe you
very
have
few occasions. Yeah.
handful of occasions where 200 has been chased down, and that's also because of the fact that the moment you have 200 up front, there's a psychological advantage where you get, and that's always going to put a lot of pressure on the team chasing. And you saw that
yeah.
once again where a team is not sure of how to approach an innings. Whether should it be the openers playing it out, or Australia wanted to stick to their approach, and where they lost wickets. That's why I give credit to New Zealand bowlers. They were absolutely spot on with their accuracy, did not falter, giving any freebies. It could have well been a flyer for Australia, and Australia would have felt much better. But they made sure, especially Trent Bolt setting the rhythm up, as Sandeep rightly mentioned, setting the rhythm up was the case. The second ball, which he ball swung away from David Warner, and that already put a lot of doubts on David Warner's mind. And even that edge four, which he got, was not convincing. That even there, baller was on top, and next over, he went on to a freak dismissal, which I believe. धनतेरस की शुभकामनाएं या धनतेरस की शुभकामनाएं आपको और आपके परिवार को और सबको जो लोग हमारा शो देख रहे हैं और कल छोटी दिवाली भी है और कल छोटी दिवाली के दिन सब भारतीय वासियों ऐसा like hopefully everyone will be hoping that India gets a win, but the good
I mean,
news
I'm just
one,
glad Abel tried his best to speak Hindi.
yeah,
I
yeah,
was
I'm
just
actually
waiting
trying.
कब तक चलेगा
He did
ये.
a great
Yeah.
job over there.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
was
I
great.
try. I absolutely try my best. Tammy says from Australia that she's gutted with the loss. Yeah, uh,
Oh, I mean,
of course, any Australian will be
just to
gutted
make
with
it
the
worse
loss.
for you, Tammy, I think today's score is the lowest ever, is the lowest recorded total in T20 internationals in Sydney Cricket Ground. I
Oh
think
yeah,
that's today.
it
So
is. It is. It
it
is.
just becomes worse for Australia, that record, something they wouldn't want on their name.
Yeah, I mean that is not a good thing to have, and especially when you're the
And I
home
think
team.
if Australia would have managed to chase it down, it would have been the highest successful chase in Sydney.
No, I think
Because
the
I
highest
think
is
right now, yeah, right
221.
now the record is
Yeah.
held by I think India. They chased down
No, it's
198
it's
against.
Australia only who
Yeah, I was
chased down
against. Yeah, I was
England.
against Australia.
Yeah, yeah, it was against Australia. I mean, India chased down 198,
No,
where
no.
17
One
was
Yeah,
nine.
the
the last
most
wicket.
chased. Yeah, the highest chased target is
Yeah,
correct. Correct. India,
so
India is
that
it.
would have toppled that 198 that India chased down. I think
Yeah,
199 they
yeah.
chased. Yeah.
Truly, and that's where I
Iconic game,
think.
yeah. Yuvraj Singh hitting
Hmm.
a six and a boundary of the last over, and
It's
then
Yuvraj
Suresh
and
Rana
Raina, right?
finishing it off. Yeah,
Yeah, it was a
Yeah,
Rana
very
that
finished
was
it
that
off
was
sexy.
an incredible scene. Yeah.
incredibly.
That was that indeed was. But for Australia, they would not be proud of this record. This record is something which is going to hurt. It kind of reminds you of 2016 World Cup where New Zealand put the host team under pressure on the opening game
Correct.
by getting India all out for 79 odd. They were defending just 120, but this is a different game altogether. I think that's where New Zealand is a very dangerous team when it comes to ICC tournaments. You can't really predict how this team is going to come about.
Yeah.
And yet again, they showed when it comes to ICC tournament, they know how to play as a team. Uh, Sandeep, coming to you because for New Zealand, you can never write this team down. Now, even against England, now England will be very wary of this team, and today they will not be very pleased with the performance they had with the bat as well. So now this New Zealand team is searing. They know how to take down oppositions. How do you see this New Zealand team now progressing into this tournament?
Yeah, I think the New Zealand team right now has the right mixture of young talents and experienced campaigners in their side. You have the young talents of Finn Allen. There is Glenn Phillips, Mark Chapman, and Michael Bracewell if he gets a game. But with this performance, I don't think that he's going to get a game anytime soon because Santner will take take the spot like he does in all the World Cup tournaments, all the big tournaments. It was surprising, honestly, that they went with Santner and dropped somebody like Michael Bracewell, even though he was in some red hot form. So I expect, I at least want, I wish that they get like allow or let Michael Bracewell play one of these games. But other than that, I think New Zealand are going really strong. Mitchell Santner picked up 3 wickets at the end of the day. All the bowlers chipped in with at least 1 wicket. With the bat, whoever came into bat, barring I think Glenn Phillips, everybody got a move on. Everybody got 2 starts. Everybody scored in the 20s, and I think Glenn Phillips also got out trying to accelerate, so it's fine. And with the ball as well, 3 wickets for Santner, 2 wickets for uh, no, 3 wickets for Santner and Saudi, 2 wickets for Bolt,
Yeah,
and 1 wickets each for
Loki
Sodi
Ferguson.
and
Loki.
Ferguson. Yeah, I think Loki Ferguson too bowled really well. He was not in the best of forms leading into this World Cup, but I think tonight he was spectacular. And also, I think Kane Williamson has always been a very proactive captain. He knows when to sort of give which bowlers the go, and I think the experience is coming into play. And this New Zealand team looks very difficult to beat, especially because you have somebody like Martin Guptill and Michael Bracewell sitting in the dugout. Their services are still not required, and they are demolishing teams like Australia, who were
I
one
mean,
of the
it
favorites
is
heading into
it
this.
has a lot to do with the mentality as well, because they got out for 98 in that warm up game which they played against South Africa. Lost a Tri Nation series at home, so people were
Hmm.
absolutely writing this team off. And now 11-year record which they held in Australia of not having a single win in Australian soil. Now all these put behind today's performance is going to give them a lot of momentum. I know we use the word momentum a lot in T20 format, and that's actually a fact, because the momentum which is going to really help them to go ahead in this tournament and to defeat the host nation, who are also one of the favorites of this tournament. Now, that is what is one of the special things about this New Zealand team, right? Now, if they can pull out a win here and there, I expect them to start as favorite in another 3 matches, at least against, except England, maybe the other 3 matches, they'll be the favorites. And now, with the net run rate they've got, they're definitely in. Can we expect an India New Zealand semi final once again, Sandeepani? If at all India
I would
qualify.
hope. Yeah, I would hope that that does not happen again. And even if it happens, that India wins it, because India has
You
a
know,
poor track record playing New Zealand in ICC tournaments,
yeah, they
be
have.
it the T20 World Cup or World Cup. India has always struggled to beat New Zealand,
But you know what?
and
I
this New
think New
Zealand
Zealand
team
just
looks
wants
really
to do all well and come again. New Zealand really wants a match against India in a knockout, and just to spoil all the hopes of this 1 billion Indians again, and they'll go to the final. Some way or the other, they'll just manage to be in the final. And once again, if this is the way they're going to carry on playing this tournament, I'm pretty sure they'll make it to the semi final, and final is another thought. They'll somehow manage. Their name will be there in the final. It's just one of those teams,
Yeah,
where
New
they already
Zealand.
right there.
This is the case with New Zealand all the time. They are the dark horses leading into the tournament,
I don't think now
and
they're
then
any more dark horses. They're the team for the big tournaments. They are
Yeah, I mean,
somebody
New
with.
Zealand always. I mean, New Zealand is always a team which kind of ruins the party for everyone and then ruins it for their own fans. That's pretty much what New Zealand has been doing for quite some time. I hope this time around, I mean, at least for everyone who adores this team, I hope they go all the way.
Yeah.
But then against my better, this is me
I mean,
saying
to be
against my
very
better
honest,
experience.
nobody had them in their top four. Nobody
Yeah,
had them in
yeah.
their top
And
four.
no,
that's
I
what
think
New Zealand
still
does, right? New Zealand always
it's a
sneaks in
long
the
way to
top
go.
four.
It's still a long way to go. I think they'll face a very stiff
Yeah,
challenge
yeah.
against England. Even though England did not win in the most convincing manner today, but you have to understand they were chasing under the lights.
Yeah, but I
But
think
they were brilliant on the field. They bowled
that is where I
brilliantly.
think so. That's
Yeah,
another win for New Zealand in a way, right? The fact that England couldn't win the match as quickly or as well as they would have liked, because now it
yeah.
means
But
that
I think
New Zealand has a very good net run rate, and if and
definitely.
even if I mean, suppose even if New Zealand loses against England, but they don't do as bad a net run rate, they can still get
No,
through
but
because the other
but they'll
three.
still have to go on and beat Sri Lanka, Ireland,
Yeah,
and
but then
Afghanistan.
I mean, in terms of Australia and England, the challenge isn't as much. But then that's what
Yeah.
this World Cup has taught
See,
us,
the
right?
whole point is
These
that the moment they
See,
got
but
off to this win against Australia.
when Ireland were playing against New Zealand in New Zealand, this same team, almost the core strength of the team, New Zealand team was same. But Ireland came very close to beating this New Zealand team.
Yeah,
So
that is very true.
you
But
might
yet
have
again,
with yeah.
I'll tell you one thing about this New Zealand team. When it comes to these big occasions, they just come together as a team. It's not individual performance with New Zealand. You always get a team performance, a cohesive unit who can go out there and take down any team. That's what we're seeing yet again from New Zealand. A big match like this in an ICC tournament opener, they came out as a team. Finn Allen, Devon Conway, Jimmy Neesham, Glenn Phillips. Sandner. It was a complete team performance. So that's why you can't write this team off at any cost. Every time you want to write this team off, they keep proving all of us wrong time and time again by saying that
Definitely.
we are the team for the big tournaments. I'm not sure they'll go on to win the tournament, but they will put up a good show in an ICC tournament. They've been doing it consistently since last 2 decades, and wherever they've been there, they've done well. Uh, Michelle also says that she's gutted with the performance which took place today. Of course, a lot of Australians are gutted because nobody expected this coming. For Australia, this
Yeah.
is a big blow to their chances as
I
well.
mean,
You
once
never.
Australia lost 3 wickets in the power play, they could have adopted a more conservative approach where they could have kept a few wickets till the end. So they could have capitalized on it and could have ended somewhere close to 160, 170 instead of finishing at 111. And I think the hit that the net run rate will take from this loss will be very hard to recover.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I felt Australia wanted to, really take the game by the scruff of its neck in the power play itself because New Zealand had an incredible power play. They got 65 runs in that power play, and Australia wanted to
New
replicate it,
Zealand
but
had
they ended up
56 of the first
scoring.
four.
But yeah, they ended up scoring only half of it, and I think somewhere, someplace, Australia should have, realized, okay, fine, maybe here's where we try to build ourselves, get ourselves
No,
in,
the problem
because
with
we
this
are losing
that
wickets,
is
and
yeah, that is what I think is the problem of this Australian team, that they try to hit a boundary of each and every delivery. You will have to have a player who is looking to sort of rotate the strike and taking the game deep, or playing a long knock from the other end, from one end at least. But this Australian team, you consider team, you like take Tim David for an example, or Marcus Stoinis, or Maxwell, or Mitchell Marsh, or Aaron Finch. All of them just try to hit the
But
ball
you know what?
to
I
this
love the
boundary.
fact that, just talking about Australia, they did not have a plan. But New Zealand, on the other hand, had a plan. They knew which
yeah,
batter will go after which ball. For example, you saw Finn Allen going after Mitchell Stark. You saw Devon Conway just being there to go after Adam Zampa. Because Adam Zampa always had the upper hand against the Kiwis. And he always went on to do well. Today also you saw that he picked up the wicket of Kane Williamson. And he always had a matchup against Kane Williamson. But Devon Conway, what he did was he played well against the spin. He took Adam Zampa straight down the ground, and Adam Zampa's line was faulted. Today, you saw someone like
yeah.
Josh Hazelwood. Josh Hazelwood's line was faulted up front because Finn Allen's job was to do that. Charge him down the track, make sure his line is faulted, and they passed him that test. When it comes to
But
finishing,
Hazelwood came back really strong, and I think that is why I think Hazelwood. I think he's the best pacer from the Australian team right now in T20 internationals.
Mm-hmm.
Pat Cummins and Mitchell Stark are not up to the mark, up to that mark of performance where Josh Hazelwood is operating right now, because talk about the Yorkers. He can nail those Yorkers. He can bowl that sort of a good length deliveries. He can bowl a very good bouncer that is sort of over the shoulder high, but below the head. So I think all in all, I think his variations, his the usage of his deliveries is more clever. Is a He uses those deliveries in a more clever way than somebody like a Mitchell Stark or a Pat Cummins.
I mean, yeah, uh, it can be said that Josh Hazelwood has improved as a T20 cricketer over the last couple of years. Because you all saw Josh Hazelwood, you all rated Josh Hazelwood to be one-dimensional, and this was one format we all did not expect Josh Hazelwood really, succeeding. And you always knew that Josh Hazelwood is one player who always likes to improve. Every time you saw him, he always got better. Today also you saw he came back pretty well, maybe except for the last six which he went. Even that over was pretty good.
Do you
Uh,
reckon by any chance Nathan Ellis or Kane Richardson getting a game, because
Nathan Ellis, I don't think is a part of the squad at all.
he isn't? Yeah, but
He,
Kane Richardson had a very good warm up game. He picked up 4 wickets, and with Pat Cummins and Mitchell Stark not being in the best of forms, they might as well go with Kane Richardson for one or two of the games. But this we know that the management loves to keep it like, say, they don't like to change too many things. So I don't see that happening. But I think that should be a possibility that they should consider at some point.
yeah. We already have early predictions coming in saying the New Zealand versus New Zealand versus Pakistan final. So interesting. That's a good prediction. Uh, Already, I mean, that's a good one. I mean, I like that.
I think
Two
that would
dark
be
horses.
that would, if that happens, many teams would be disappointed.
I
But it would
also
be an
want to just
incredible
remind that this is not a
story.
Bangladesh series. This is a World Cup, so I don't think the chances of that final happening is also a lot, because these two other teams who are not rated as highly to go into the semi-final or final. But if at all they make it to the final, it's going to be very surprising. It's going to be a final which nobody would have expected coming. Everybody wanted England, Australia, India, South Africa, but New Zealand versus Pakistan final will be a final which is not
If
even
there are
there.
two
Nobody
teams who are
expected.
definitely capable of doing it, but
Yeah, yeah.
it will take a lot,
Yeah, but
especially
it's
New Zealand has
a
made it
it's
easier
a
for
big
themselves,
call.
but
It's a very
Pakistan,
bold call.
it will start tomorrow. If they have to really get into the finals, tomorrow is going to be one important game for them.
Of course, tomorrow's game is important for both their teams, and as you saw, opening game is always going to be important.
Hmm.
That's why
We might
Australia.
have a New Zealand versus Pakistan semi-final instead, because if
Interesting.
New Zealand goes on to top this group, I think that is a bigger possibility than them facing in the finals.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
also a possibility. Yeah, that's another possibility of New Zealand versus Pakistan's semi-final. But it's still early days. We can't predict anything. If New Zealand falters here or there against Sri Lanka and Ireland, then you were saying what really happened to this team, which gave that brilliant start to the tournament. You saw that with Namibia as well. It's been that kind of a World Cup where you steal from the
You
big
can't
team and you
predict
give it to the
anything.
small. It's very early.
Yeah.
It's very early to predict anything and anything, completely anything in the World Cup, because of the conditions. Well, a lot of factors involved, ground dimensions, as we already say. It's about
I mean, if
playing smart cricket.
Afghanistan wouldn't have had such a collapse, losing 5 wickets of within the last 3 runs, I think another 15 runs on the board, and they could have made a match out of it.
Yeah, possibly. I think 140 would have been a good score on that track.
140 would have been a great score.
I mean, I also think it's the inexperience of playing in Australia which caught Afghanistan. We'll move to that match now, because for England, they'll be pretty pleased with the win they got, but not the ideal way to get that chase going. They lost 5 wickets, but ultimately a win is a win. How do you see that? Because when it comes to bowling performance, Mark Wood is a big positive. One of the highest average speeds clocked by a bowler in T20 World Cup history, 148 plus, and he was bowling quick, and he had no ball below 140 Ks, and almost four. I think out of 24 balls, almost 16 of his balls were in excess of 150 Ks, and that's what Afghanistan batters were put on the back foot. And in a wicket like Perth, it's even quicker. How did you see that game, Jaren, especially when it comes to English bowling?
Yeah, I mean, it was it was something that we all expected, because the English bowlers, they are already have been in England. They've played T20 a bilateral series, so they are, if not anything, they adapted very well, and they know how to bowl in these conditions. Regardless, and we knew Mark Wood is going to be their most destructive weapon, because he's quick, he's fast, he's skiddy off the surface, and he's not a typical English bowler. That's where he's been really good. He's been one of their main bowlers when it comes to conditions outside England, but having said that, I would say, still, I would say, been very impressed overall by the performance of Afghanistan. They did not let England walk all over them. They fought, and that's something that we expect from this Afghanistani team. It's going to be an experience that they will definitely, I wouldn't say cherish, but as much as they would definitely remember this experience, because it's not easy playing in Australia, especially for Asian teams, and that's something that, all the Asian teams have terrible records. India recently has changed that trend. I think with this recent wave, the India has become a lot better in Australia. But traditionally, Asian countries do suffer in Australia, and that makes sense, because they come from country. Asian conditions are a bit more slower, and it doesn't bounce as much. But it was just good to see, especially the bowling of Afghanistan. And but I will like to point out one thing: the fact that England realized that they were not able to get away as quickly as they would have liked. And I think I was really impressed with someone like Liam Livingston. For instance, he played an innings which is not something you expect of him, 29 of 21, and he sort of shepherded this English team towards the victory. Not something you expect Living Livingston to keep going and attacking, hit those 100-meter sixes. Today, what he did was signs that he's a mature cricketer, and he will be definitely proud of the fact that he played that kind of innings and got his team home. So that is something that I was really happy also about. But one thing that this England team showed was the fact that they escaped the temptation to go after the bowling, and as probably what Australia should have learned from England today, England's performance today, is the fact that there can be another gear, but then also you have to. I also understand the fact that Australia had a tougher task at hand of 200 runs, while England could have managed to slow down a bit and take a bit of a
Hmm.
time. before they got to
No,
the
but
run.
I also think that Liam Livingston could not play a Livingston sort of a knock because he was really struggling in the middle, especially against
Mm.
the slower bowlers. He was trying to hit them out of the park, but he was not connecting
Yeah.
the ball. Like that was a very scratchy knock. He looked comfortable in that over where I think the six bowling pacer came in. Uh, who was it? I think I'll have to check the name.
I think it.
Farid Ahmed. Yeah, the over where Farid Ahmed came into bowl, I think that is the only over where Liam Livingston looked comfortable. He was really struggling against Mujibur Rahman or Nabi or Rashid Khan. And I think the Afghanistan spin trio, they have the experience of playing in Australia. They utilize the conditions really well. It's just that they did not have enough runs on the board. And I think the collapse at the end was the main cause. I think Afghanistan went pretty well uh, to certain extent. You'll have to give credit to England because yeah, they'll not be happy with how they finished the game, how they batted, but they'll be very happy with their efforts on the field, with the ball and in the field, especially because some of the catches that they pulled off were spectacular. The catch that Liam Livingston pulled off of Ben Stokes bowling, where Zazai tried to clear point and hit that boundary. He covered all the way from extra cover. He came in and he took that catch. And
Yeah.
not just that, I think Adil Rashid took a brilliant catch to dismiss Ibrahim Zadran. Then there was, I think, Livingston again taking a brilliant. I mean, there were 4 or 5 brilliant catches in the game from England. All the catches that they took were outstanding, and that is something that they'll take great pride from the fielding and the bowling. The pacers did their job. Mark Wood was consistent.
Hmm.
Ben Stokes surprisingly came in to open the bowling for them. Very
Yeah.
surprising choice, but worked. It worked. So brilliant bowling from Ben Stokes, Mark Wood, Sam Curran picked up a
I'm
5 wicket
good.
haul.
Yeah.
He picked up 4 wickets in his last 6 deliveries.
Yeah.
Almost took a hat trick.
I mean,
So
Sam Curran has been an impressive bowler for England, right? That's one of the reasons why they've been persistent. I think this entire team combination has been set around to include Sam Curran as well in the lineup. They have a batting line. They have batting till 8 now. They have very strong batting till 8. You saw today
Definitely.
Harry Brook and Liam Livingston both were able to fit into the team with David Malan. I mean, you can say David Malan's innings was very slow, same like what Kane Williamson also played, but the conditions were also very tough. It wasn't the easiest of conditions to be,
But
accelerating.
I think also great to see Chris Wokes playing. His place in the side was a doubt because of his injury concerns, but
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
great that he also bowled well. But I still feel Adil Rashid in that team is not required.
I mean, I think with this team, with only three paces, maybe
You
you
have
can
Liam
say
Livingston,
cool.
you have Moeen Ali to do the job with the ball if spinners are needed. I think Adil Rashid playing in that like he's not in the best. He's not in any sort of form. It's reached that stage like how Avish Khan was bowling in the Asia Cup because he had a bad series in West Indies. He had a bad series against Zimbabwe. Did not have the best of series against Zimbabwe, and then came in the Asia Cup with no form whatsoever. So
Yeah,
that's the case with Adil Rashid as well. He needs a great game where he picks up 4 or 5 wickets, or at least 3 4 wickets, and goes for a economical spell at least. Because Adil Rashid, we are seeing him that he's not picking up wickets. Not just that, he's conceding way too many runs. Even in a game where Afghanistan only managed to score 112, all the other spinners were so effective. Mohammad Nabi was effective. Rashid Khan and Mujibur Rahman did their job. Adil Rashid was the only bowler going at a economy rate of over 7. He went for at an economy rate of 8. 32 runs of
mm.
4 overs is not something that Adil Rashid would be proud of, and I think Adil Rashid really needs to pick up quick wickets or early wickets early in his spell
But
to
also you
sort of
have to
have any
understand
confidence.
that this is not the easiest of conditions for Adil Rashid to even get back into form. Because Australia
No,
is
but
one
I
area
think
where he's not
today's
had best of
today's
record.
pitch was today's pitch was more on the more on that level where which will assist somebody like like a
I thought
Adil Rashid.
today's pitch helped bowlers who were bowling faster through the air, especially like spinners who were bowling faster through the air, likes of Rashid Khan, Mujib, or even Nabi, for example. All the spinners who had extra bit of pace in the air, they got something out of the wicket. The bowlers who
Then
were
they could have
slower
used
than
somebody
the
like a Moeen Ali. They could have used somebody like a Moeen Ali. You don't need Rashid Khan in that team only just to slow things up and to have an orthodox leg spinner because I think Liam Livingston can do that role perfectly well. And they can also fit in an extra sort of an all rounder or bowling all rounder in his place.
yeah.
Another pacer maybe fit in Chris Jordan in his place.
I
That will
mean,
cover the depth
absolutely.
bowling as well.
Yeah, maybe. But
Because you
right
will
now,
not have
Ireland.
Ben Stokes giving you 4 overs every day.
Yeah, that is another possibility they can look into. But at this point, they will just back Adil Rashid because they know that he can come good at some stage. But for
Definitely, I think
Afghanistan,
it's just a matter of games, but he'll have to pick up that wicket early in his spell so that he has that confidence to toss the ball up and invite the players to go after. And also I think Afghanistan was not the right opponent for him because subcontinent teams know how to play spin. They play spin really well. I think Adil Rashid will be very effective in the game against Ireland. They'll really struggle to pick him, and if there is some any sort of assistance from the pitch for him, I think he'll do well.
yeah, and he'll be hoping that he does well as well. But Jaren, for Afghanistan, can they pull up a surprise here or there, defeat one of the big teams now going ahead in the tournament? I know Sri Lanka is one opposition they'll be eyeing on. Even Ireland is a good opposition; they can really get a win. But when it comes to big team, Australia, New Zealand, can they get a win here or there? Because this team has got the potential to do it at least with the ball, but with the bat, they look to be troubling. They look to be struggling because of the pace and bounce. And Perth was not the ideal place for them to get going as well because Perth is the fastest wicket there in Australia.
Yeah, I think it's not going to be easy for Afghanistan, especially their batters. That's their bowlers. The spin trio of Mujibur Rahman, Mohammad Nabi, and Rashid Khan have found success in Australia. They know how to bowl in Australia and they know how to perform in Australia. But issue with the batters is the fact that not many of them. I wouldn't. I don't know how many of them have actually played BBL, right? They haven't, and that's the reason why these batters will take some time. But and also, the only time Afghanistan really got going was, as Sandeep mentioned, was against Adil Rashid. Except for that, they never really got any momentum. And if Adil Rashid was not there, ironically today, I think Afghanistan would have been balled out for a lot lesser. And that's probably how it's going to be. I think so. That's the reason why I think Sri Lanka is probably the one game they'll be hoping. And I mean, Sri Lanka is probably the one game where they might come close to an upset. But I think the way they performed in Asia Cup, you won't call it an upset anymore. Sri Lanka and Ireland are the only two opponents. They should ideally win those matches. But aside from that, I think on these pitches, not going to be easy. Even New Zealand, the way they are playing right now, the confidence that they're riding high on, it's not going to be easy to play against them as well. And they took on someone like Adam Zampa earlier in the day, so it's not like they're troubled by spin either. So this is not going to be easy for Afghanistan to do well. But you never know. This World Cup has been that kind of a tournament, right? I
Yeah, I
mean,
think
in
the
the
only
group
chance that
stages,
Afghanistan will have if their batting, the batting department can post some sort of total of respectability, because I think the
yeah,
Afghanistan
it,
has a
it
very
has
good
to be,
bowling attack.
the batting has to at least do a mediocre, not a mediocre job, but an average job at least.
Yeah,
Get a 150, 145, and then they're in the game. Then from there, you never
definitely.
know, because this team has got the quality. We saw them in the Asia Cup as well. That's where they operated, where they really choked the teams. It's not easy to pick any of the players. And Mohammad Nabi on these pitches, where the grounds are so big, and you have the ground dimension to kind of support you. Mohammad Nabi is a very dangerous operator because he isn't your classical off spinner. He's not someone who's going to turn the ball into you. He's got an arm ball. He balls the ball which goes on with the arm, straighter through the and skids off the surface. So he's someone who can
Yeah.
really trouble batters in that
I think
fashion.
his last over in particular, the 18th over that he pulled was very impressive, because both
Yeah,
Liam
yeah.
Livingston and Moeen Ali was trying to finish the game in that over itself. But he held his line back. He was bowling in that good length, sort of a good length to short pitch deliveries. Some of them could have been half volleys, but the pace at which he was bowling, it was very difficult for the batsman to get under the ball and sort of get any elevation on the deliveries.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And that's where Nabi's experience. Nabi has got a better record in Australia compared to many other countries. That's why Nabi is an experienced captain, and they would want Nabi to have a very good tournament for Afghanistan to do well. You saw that Nabi did not have a very good tournament in the Asia Cup, hence Afghanistan getting knocked out in the Super Fours. But here in a tournament like the World Cup and in conditions like Australia, where he's got certain amount of experience compared to other batters in their team, you would want Nabi to step up both with the bat and also with the ball. Today, he was excellent on the field with the ball, so a lot of boxes ticked over there, and for Rashid Khan as well. Rashid Khan was brilliant once again. He was economical. He picked up a wicket towards the end, but they would want more out of Rashid Khan. They would want Rashid Khan to pick up a couple of wickets and pick up more wickets, and their pacers also to be much more handy because today you saw when Farid came on to ball, the pressure was released. He gave a big over of 15 odd runs when the pressure was mounting. So they would want their pacers to be also bowling a lot more consistent. Saloni says that Diwali, India versus Pakistan is coming, and firecrackers time. Absolutely. I mean, tomorrow is a big day. People are already worried about the rain tomorrow. As for whatever we're getting is that there won't be any rain. It's a cloudy day, which is predicted in Melbourne, so which is good news for all the cricket fans across the world. They would want some bit of action, and at the right
Good
time,
news
the
for all the swing bowlers as well.
but you know what? If it is going to be over, Australia doesn't really tend to swing a lot. Whatever you're going to get is going to be very minimal. Maybe the first 1 over or 2 overs is all what you're going to get. That's why you have to be really good. If you're and especially, I think the team bowling second will have a lot more out of it than the team bowling first. So it all depends. So toss is also going to be a crucial factor. I don't know what team India is going to do, or what team Pakistan is going to do. Teams will prefer chasing once again. I think Melbourne ground helps teams chasing, and I think we'll have a show on that later tonight. We'll come back by saying on the ground venue what are the best fantasy options for you for tomorrow, and how is it going to be, how the teams are going to approach it, which is a player to have an eye out for. So these are things which we will be covering in the show, which we'll
I
be
think we
doing
had a
at
good enough
11:30.
day fantasy wise in both the games tonight. Apart from
Yeah,
probably the captain and vice captain not giving us too many
Yeah.
points, but other than that, I think all the players chipped in with some points.
yeah.
And I
I
think
think
people were clever enough to sort of exclude Michael Bracewell and put in his replacement Mitchell Santner in the team once the team was announced, because we don't have the team list. And I think we'll get more sort of appropriate results once the tournament kicks in, because the first game is always very unpredictable.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, that's one of the reasons also why we were unsure of predicting tomorrow's lineups. You're not sure if Chahal will play or Ashwin will play. A lot of
Yeah.
speculations.
Yeah.
So
I think
speculations are
tomorrow,
something which,
because of the weight of the occasion and the fact that these two teams have have tried out a lot of options, especially Pakistan. Pakistan is one team which is very difficult to predict because they are, I think, in theory and in character, unpredictable. You never know whom they're going to throw up and where, who gets a selection, who gets a nod, and
Theory,
where.
character, performances, everything is unpredictable about
Yeah,
Pakistan.
yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that's the
So
thing, right? You don't know which Pakistan turns up tomorrow, also.
yeah, so it's absolutely, so
Hopefully, the
you don't
Pakistan of the
know.
2015 World Cup.
I mean, for Pakistan, they'll have to, create history if they have to win in Australia tomorrow, and they've been good enough to create history against India in the recent past. They won for the first time in the World Cup against India. They will want to win for the first time in Australia tomorrow. So these are things which they would want to create, and they want to go ahead in the World Cup, because tomorrow's win is so important for both the teams. And as we were talking about for Australia today as well, today's win was so crucial. Because of one factor, right? If today's win would have been under the belt for either of the team, they'll feel much better going ahead in the tournament. Now, why do you say New Zealand are one of the contenders for semi-finals? Because of today's win. If New Zealand would have lost today, you would have again wrote them off, saying that New Zealand are
Yeah.
Yeah,
not
because
up
the
to the
team who
mark.
loses their first match always have to play catch up then because they're always trying to hope that this team
No, see,
loses and
the
that team
challenge
loses.
for
And
New Zealand was always to defeat either of Australia or England, because we knew that New Zealand
yeah.
was the third best team on paper. So
Hmm.
the only challenge for them was to beat either of Australia and England, and suddenly the group will be very open and active. And I think it's very very tricky right now who gets that final spot, because England did not have a very convincing win. New Zealand had a very convincing win over
Yeah.
Australia. So suddenly the favorites are not looking very stable,
Hmm.
and New Zealand and Sri
Yeah, it
Lanka,
also
or
depends.
probably
I think the
Ireland.
game
Yeah.
of England versus New Zealand is going to be such a vital game now. Because anything, and even Australia versus England is going to be so vital. For Australia, they
Yeah.
would want to win. They would not
Yeah, so
want
I
to
think from
falter
here on,
anymore.
Australia would hope that England defeats New Zealand and then they defeat England so that the balance is brought back to the table, and that's the only way Australia will also do. I mean, Australia will make a
Or
claim.
else they'll just
But I
hope New
expect
Zealand
Australia
wins
to come
against
back
England.
with a thumping win against Sri Lanka, because especially because Sri Lanka does not have the bowling. They have a lot of injury
But
concerns.
you never know. You never know with Sri Lanka as well. Like, you don't know which Sri Lanka turns up. But I think
Yeah, but their
Australia's ideal
concerns with the
scenario.
ball is very evident. Their injury concerns with the ball is very evident. Also with the bat, the top order, I think they struggle against quality pace
Yeah,
attack.
yeah.
And
I think the
Mitchell
ideal
Stark made
scenario for
comments early on.
Australia will be to win other matches, but at the same time, New Zealand to keep on winning.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, so
if
either they'll want
England,
New Zealand to run away with it,
yeah,
and
that'd be
get
the
the top
ideal
spot.
one. You know why I
Yeah.
say that is also because the net run rate, right? If every
Hmm.
team ends up in 4-1, 4-1, then net run rate comes into picture, which Australia has
Correct.
taken
If
a
there are
huge
no
hit of.
upsets, if Sri Lanka, if Australia, New Zealand, and England manage to defeat these three teams, Sri Lanka, Ireland, and Afghanistan, all of them defeat, then it all leads down to these three games. So now New Zealand has already beaten Australia. If New Zealand lose to England and England lose to Australia, that is the only scenario where we'll get three teams on 4 wins out of 5 games. So
Yeah,
that is
yeah.
when the net run rate
Hmm.
kicks in.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that is when net run rate will kick in big time as well. So as of now, everything looks good on the paper for New Zealand, but at the same time, if New Zealand gets a win against England, and if England goes on losing in Australia, then it's a different tournament altogether. So this is where every permutations and combination will come in handy. Uh, as of now, the other group, you still haven't had matches from there, because even tomorrow the first game is going to be Sri Lanka versus Ireland. The first game of from the other group is going to be India versus Pakistan, to see where things stand in the other group. And South Africa will be in action day after tomorrow against Zimbabwe. That's an interesting game. The neighbors, and of course South
But no,
Africa starts as
it's
well.
interesting that nobody is bothered about Sri Lanka versus Ireland. That is also going to be
I
a
mean,
game.
nobody was bothered about Sri Lanka or Ireland in the group stage
I
as
think
well for quite some time.
this is just a continuation of the qualifiers which just got over yesterday. So these are two teams who are there
They
now.
were, I mean, it was good to see though some
The
fans
fa-
did come, but it's not
yeah,
the
the
traditional base that you see in these games.
Another great sort of scheduling by ICC to keep Sri Lanka versus Ireland the
yeah.
qualifier winners and India versus Pakistan on the same day.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
also good. It's good in one way. I think this could have been also avoided, because I think on 26 there is only one game. It's only Australia
Yeah.
versus Sri Lanka. Maybe there they could have fit in this game,
No,
and
but
it should have been just
they
exclusive
anyway
India versus
decided to
Pakistan.
fill in this slot with the qualifiers, the winners of the qualifiers. So
I mean,
anyway, it was not going to
I
get too much of
thought
crowd.
this could have been better rescheduled, no? Because when it
Yeah.
comes to
It would
India
have
versus
been better if they would
Pakistan,
have rescheduled it to 26. Yeah.
yeah, there's an exclusivity for India versus
I
Pakistan, and
think
you know
Abel,
nobody's going.
yeah, I mean, Abel would have hoped it was a little later on as well, so he could have caught a bit of.
Or probably
Or maybe
early on, yeah.
earlier on, yeah. So that's one thing. It doesn't matter. I think I'll still be able to catch some bit of action if it permits. If it was not a one-sided game, but a lot of people are expecting one-sided games tomorrow. I'm hearing a lot of fans predicting to be one-sided. I think it could well maybe a one-sided affair.
I
I don't
think
know
in
which
these kind of
team.
situations, when one team gets the momentum because it's such a high pressure game, more often than not, the momentum just powers the other team through. And for example, today's game, I mean, Australia versus New Zealand is also in many ways a rivalry, and we saw once the momentum went into New Zealand's hand, it was just difficult for Australia to wrestle it back. And this happens a lot. Momentum is going to be important. So I think the power play and the way the first few overs go, from there on the game might really that phase might dictate the game and how it goes, and we've seen that happen in India Pakistan games for quite some time now. It's
Yeah.
I think Asia Cup, I mean not Asia Cup but T20, yeah, the T20 Asia Cup was a bit closer, the matches that were played, but then again, this is something else bound to
I
happen.
mean, the
One
conditions
sided
are
won't be
different.
surprising.
If
Yeah.
it was playing UAE, I think the teams would have started an equal playing field. But the conditions are in Australia. There are a lot of issues with Pakistani middle order. That's where you give India the slight bit of edge. But only where Pakistan can neutralize is by picking up wickets up front. If Shaheen has one of those spells once again, then Pakistan is really up there on the top. And also depends. The toss is a factor tomorrow. If the team is put on to bat first, if they lose a couple of wickets up front, if it's either Pakistan or India, they'll be in trouble, especially Pakistan, because they do not have a middle order. There, Pakistan, that's when Pakistan is going to really feel the pressure. If Pakistan lose Babar and Rizwan early, then there's a huge hole which they have to take, because Shan Masood got hit in the nets yesterday, so he's not looking good. Whatever I'm hearing, Fakar Zaman
Also,
might
very
not play.
interesting to see how if India bats first, how they go about batting about their business early on against Shaheen Afridi and probably Harris Rauf or
I think
Mohammad Azharuddin.
India batting first has only got one approach these days, which is to go bang, bang, bang. I think it's not going to
But
change.
But it's going
I,
to be
I, I
interesting today. Two teams which try to go bang, bang,
But
bang,
you'll have to
and for the
understand that
World
the
Cup.
average score at the MCG is 141 batting first in
Yes, it
T20
is. It
T20
is. But then
international.
at least you would want to score at least 160, 170. I think India had better position to score 170, 180 by going bang, bang, bang. And also one other thing, like the aggressive approach has also helped India in many ways.
Yeah, but
For example, in New
the
Zealand.
only concern for me is don't end up at 140 145 trying to go too hard early on, because there will be only 2 overs from Shaheen Shah Afridi early on. So
Yeah.
just yeah, Just play
Maybe
wisely.
they might not really go after Shaheen Shah Afridi, but they'll
Yeah.
definitely go after the other bowler who's there. Uh,
No,
Shaheen Shah
but with
Afridi,
the attitude that KL Rahul has been showing in the warm ups, I don't think he's
you
going to
don't know
spare or
which KL
slow.
Rahul is going to turn up tomorrow. It's the same thing,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
So with KL
Hopefully, the
Rahul,
KL Rahul that shows up against Mino Nations and in the warm up games, yeah,
uh,
that KL Rahul
see,
shows up tomorrow.
KL Rahul has been in good touch since his return Asia Cup. It's been in
Yeah,
good touch.
yeah. I mean, against
So
Australia, for instance, he was
And I'll tell
playing.
you one thing: if KL Rahul turns up tomorrow, I don't think any bowling attack in the world can stop him because that's the potential this guy has got. Once KL Rahul gets going, there are very few bowling attacks in the world who can stop him, and even the best of bowlers can't stop him. So that's where you want KL Rahul to be on top of his form, and also Rohit Sharma. If Rohit Sharma also stays in the crease, spends good quality time, 25-30 balls he faces there, you know it's a different game.
I
And
mean,
also Surya
this
Kumar.
yeah, that's the thing with this Indian batting lineup, right? You've got batters who can change the game regardless. You've got, I mean, if you've got Rohit Sharma and KL Rahul opening, and then Virat Kohli, Surya Kumar Yadav, and Dinesh Karthik too. Maybe if you get to give those 5 overs to him, he can change the game. So
Yeah.
that
See,
is
the
the
batting is
potential that this
sorted.
batting lineup
The
has.
all eyes will be on their bowlers who gets to play because Mohammad Shami, Arshdeep Singh,
Yeah,
Harshal
yeah.
Patel, two of these three will play because
But
Bhuvneshwar
I think
Kumar is a
it is
given.
some assistance from the pitch. I would really hope that India goes with Mohammad Shami over Harshal Patel.
Yeah,
A
yeah.
bit, I mean, Harshal Patel, we saw what Saudi did today. I mean, he was
But
bowling
then you
only
have to go
cutters.
with Ashwin
But
over.
it worked.
But then you have to go with Ashwin over Chahal to get that balance in the batting order because
I think it is going to be
But I
Ashwin
mean,
over
but the
Chahal from
issue
whatever
with
I'm
going with
hearing.
Chahal over Ashwin is the fact that Ashwin and Akshay Patel together is not a wicket taking option at all. We saw that in the previous T20 World Cup where India really struggled to get wickets in the middle order
But you know
because
what? But you know what? This is where the matchup comes into play. Rizwan's record against off spin is just very bad. He's just a
and
hmm,
striker
also
of
there are
109.
left-handers in that if
Yeah, there are
Fakar
left-handers
Zaman
who
plays
they
or probably Mohammad Nawaz
Nawaz,
comes in
Nawaz.
early
So
on,
this is where
yeah.
I think Ashwin will come into handy with bigger boundaries. And Ashwin has got a very good record on Melbourne cricket ground. So
Yeah, I'm
I
already
think
excited for the game and also excited with the fact that Emil is going to miss it.
I'm not gonna miss the entire game. I'm gonna miss the first inning. So that's what I'm a little
I mean, who
disappointed
knows?
about.
Abel might just step out and see the scoreboard flashing in the screen.
Yeah, never. You never know. So I think we'll end the live right here. We'll be coming
Yeah.
live again another couple of hours time to talk about the fantasy predictions and bring out the best possible 11 for you so you can win tomorrow playing fantasy contests and boomer level. So guys, take care all of you. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, subscribe right now. Click on the bell icon and also share our video to as many people as possible so that we can keep bringing you this exciting content and bring more of these discussion on daily basis through the course of the World Cup and more. And thank you all of you if you haven't already, and also play a fantasy contest with Boom 11. We'll be giving you tips for that, so it'll help you to be a winner with Boom 11. Take care. Good night.
Good night, guys.
Bye bye.